I've spent a decade taking a bite out of conspiracy theories, unraveling urban legends, and grappling with worldwide top secret issues.
I've even racked up some of their awards.
All while ferreting out the bottom line.
On all topics, controversial, bizarre, and taboo. Interviewing movers and shakers, agitators and muckrakers.
But that doesn't answer my question. That is all I'm answering.
With me, Cary Harrison, as your guide.
Harrison with you, live streaming on a variety of different outlets, plus FMs up and down the west coast of California, east coast of the United States, here and there in Canada and Europe. I want to bring to you a hero, a guy who here in Los Angeles has brought forth, let's just say, an enlightened new way of doing what's known as gay pride, something that goes on worldwide. Gay pride, call it carnival, call it whatever you want, everywhere, but it's been rebranded, rebuilt into something that actually has utility this time. Not just flashy colors, but a point. We're talking hashtag resist, right? So the new resistant marches we're seeing all over. Brian Pendleton, welcome to Go Harrison.
I'm so pleased to be here. Thank you for having me.
And so this idea of resist, which I think out of 7 billion people on the planet, a lot of people are feeling that resistance is not futile.
It certainly is not futile, and quite frankly, the people that marched in and resist march here in Los Angeles still feel the afterglow of having participated in an event like that made people feel unified and resistant.
And resistance. So here we have a population in LA. I think the larger DMA is some 14 million, maybe.
Yeah.
And people came from all over. Because unlike previous gay prides, they were kind of expensive.
Yep.
Not everyone felt particularly welcome. There's certainly no parking. And so this time people could come in on foot and join, and we saw the aerial shots, courtesy of every single news channel, by the way.
Yes.
Helicopters flying, shooting video, and it was unbelievable. It felt like one of the great orgies during the Bush administration, where we were all out demonstrating against the war. Hundreds of thousands of people unified toward a single message.
And I think that single message, which was important here in Los Angeles, was to resist. I mean, there were plenty of marches around the country on that very same day, sort of labeled equality or labeled unity, but quite frankly, there's many in my community that don't feel equal and don't feel unified. So this one moment in time on June 11th where we gathered on Hollywood Boulevard, which, by the way, was where the first LA Pride parade ever took place, so we came back to our roots.
1970s.
1970.
Yeah.
People felt welcome. And it was free, and it was colorful, and we got to express our very own beautiful brand of resistance.
Now, just to give you some backstory on Brian Pendleton, here's a man, and I'm going to have you dig your toe on the floor and say, "Aw, shucks."
Shucks.
But you've raised over $1 billion for charities. You have created medicine where there was none. You've created institutions, the Pendleton Goldman or the Goldman Pendleton, depending on where you are. We're
Right.
talking as far away as the Philippines.
Correct.
Where you provide education, you provide PrEP services, prophylaxis against getting HIV, not only the treatment thereof, but so that you don't get it through medication. I mean, your reach is vast, and doing this also wakes people up, I think, to all the things that gay people can do. Not just celebrate, not just dance, but we're actually like vital in the conversation for freedom, for democracy, for all these good things.
And it's an overused phrase, but people can really make a difference.
Yeah.
I, regular guy, grew up here in Los Angeles, decided that my mission statement would be to pay it forward, and making that my mission statement and being surrounded by people who could help me in those deeds, we have. And my most the moment I'm most proud of is this Resist March, where we got over 100,000 people to march through the streets. And it wasn't just about marching, and it wasn't just about Nancy Pelosi and Maxine Waters and Adam Schiff coming. It was about that the press covered it in such a way that person in Tennessee or North Carolina or South Dakota saw that Los Angeles is, in fact, a sanctuary city for them. They can come here and be who they are without worry.
And this, by the way, is from a native Angelino. This is a man who's from here, born here, raised here, grew up here, and decided to give it back and pay it forward. If you saw any of the footage on our local stations, on our ABC, our CBS, our NBC, even our Fox, remarkably enough, you will have seen the kind of coverage of a gay pride celebration or an event or a resist march. We've never seen this kind of coverage before because, frankly, it's expensive. And there aren't enough car dealerships. They're still a little nervous about it.
Yeah.
But what you created was advertiser friendly, because there were straight people there.
Yes.
And there were everybody there. And it was a resist march not just for people who are friends of Dorothy, but friends of Dorothy.
That's a great point. I mean, when we set this up, when we came up with this idea in late January, I formed a committee very quickly, and a very diverse, beautiful, colorful committee. And we really wanted to say to the world that we're lending our gigantic, iconic rainbow flag to anyone who feels under threat. Yes, the LGBTQ community, but people of faith and people of color. Anybody who felt like their lives are moving backwards and not forwards, we wanted them to join us, which is why we had labor with us, which is why we had immigration groups with us, which is why we had such a diverse family with us, because together we're stronger.
Harrison with you. You are listening and watching Go Harrison, part of KPFK. We're also live streaming up and down the west coast of Florida on a variety of FMs. We're talking to Brian Pendleton. He's a native Angelino. That's a rare thing, by the way, and they're to be preserved and handled very gently because there are so few.
Yeah.
And often you find, and this has been my experience, native Angelinos are very warm and very wonderful. Whatever the vibe is of LA, it is not with people that grew up here. You guys are, well, you do what you do.
Yeah.
You do creative and smart things that are really helpful to everybody. And I was thinking about Adam Schiff. I mean, this is a very important guy who you brought in. You brought in Nancy Pelosi. You brought in Maxine Waters, whose lipstick kiss I carried for the ballots of the day, resistant to wash it off. I mean, this is like a real badge of my Hester Prynne moment.
Believe me, it was resistant to being washed off. That's a lot of lipstick.
Right? Great stuff. And because it got that kind of support, it also had that kind of statement. We have, for the first time, I think, brought together what might be called a gay community. There is a communal sense of like-minded and like-flavored people. But to have hundreds of thousands of us together marching toward a common idea is really different from where's the beer tent.
And there's plenty of that around the country.
Yeah.
What's really important to remember is that you and I, white, cisgender, gay guys, we've had a lot of progress. We can get married, we can serve openly in the military, but we can also hide. And what the problem is that we've left millions behind. The trans community, we've left them behind. People of color, we've left them behind. Over 11 trans people of color have been murdered in the United States already. And that's why they were at the front of our parade. Of our march. That is why they were leading the way. It's important for people like us to reach behind us and lift people up, because yes, we've had a lot of progress, but not the kind of progress that's where we can say mission accomplished.
It's interesting. 10 years ago, I helped start the gay channel on Sirius. Before it was Sirius XM, it was just Sirius at the time.
Before they merged.
It's called OutQ.
Yep.
And we did mornings from here. And my fantasy was, for the first time ever, to connect voices from Key West to Alaska, from North Carolina to West Hollywood. Because guess what, Brian, and you know this better than anyone else, we didn't have any founding fathers.
Right.
We have no template. So how do you go on a date? I don't know.
Right.
Quietly?
Yeah.
I mean, really, how do you do this? So we found that 90%, and this will be your experience too after this Resist March, we found that 90% of our audience ended up being straight people. We had the 10% built in. They were going to be there anyway.
Sure.
But 90% straight people. Why? Because what we talk about, what we think about, is relevant to all the mammals on Earth. Food, water, shelter.
Yeah.
Romance.
Yep.
Finance, air conditioning, whatever it is.
How do you retire with dignity?
How do you retire with dignity?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's wonderful. And I've followed you since the very beginning. I've been a satellite radio listener since the very beginning of time, and I'm really proud of what you've done for our community. And thank you.
So looking forward, We have Resist March #1 in LA. By the way, second largest market in the U.S., the media capital of Earth.
Yeah.
So doing it here, well, let's just say there's a ripple effect.
Yes.
What is next for you in this?
Well, what's next for me in this is to continue to, pass that baton forward, to make sure that other communities, it's great that we in Los Angeles could leverage the media, but what is going on in Louisville? What is going on in Charlotte? What is going on in Nashville?
Memphis.
That's where we need to be.
Yeah.
And so really trying to work with leaders in those communities to give them the strength to be resistant.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. You've said it a few times in this interview already. Freedom is not free. And parades are not free. Closing down streets and getting police officers to support you is not free.
Getting a permit, by God, have you ever tried that?
In 2 cities. We decided to march from LA to West Hollywood. And so being there to support them and in their ability to win over their community.
Right.
I mean, I think anybody who was on the streets here in Los Angeles did not see an angry mob of pitchfork-wielding people. They saw people that just want to love and be loved.
Right.
And we need to export that feeling around the country. We need to win more people over to our side of the equation, so that way when the next major elections come up, we win. And it's not just federal election. People really tried to make this about anti-Trump. And I said over and over, it's not who we're against, it's what we're against. We're against anyone trying to push us back into the closet. We're against anyone trying to tell us where we can and cannot go to the bathroom, where we can buy our wedding cakes, where we can work, where we can live. And that's happening all over the country. So we need to be vigilant. And so exporting this idea of resistance to other states is critical to me.
I was just talking to Marvin, who nobody can see. You can see him, Brian.
Hi, Marvin.
There's Marvin over there. Marvin is what we call a heterosexual.
Oh.
Yes. We're all looking at Marvin over there. He's waving back. Yes. And here's how Marvin works.
Yeah.
Now, there's this myth that gay people just decide on a random Tuesday, I think today I'm going to hook up with Fred. It's just a decision. So I asked Marvin, therefore, you wake up every morning and you say, I'm going to like girls today. I'm gonna. He's like, no. I said, well, do you ever wake up and make that choice? White knuckle on the side of the bed, I'm gonna like them today. No. Do you ever think about it? No. So do you think it's a choice? No. And that's really the truth. And this Resist March, and obviously you're following my metaphor here, the Resist March wakes people up to that.
Yeah. Because
you can't have all of these different disparate people get together for a common cause if they're all just trying to make a decision.
No.
Right?
That decision was pretty much made for us. I like to say I did not choose to be gay. I was chosen.
Right.
I was chosen. And what we do with it is where the magic is.
My twin sister, or twister, is a lipstick lesbian.
Really?
So what? Well, chapstick, really. But 100% of my parents' offspring are enchanted.
Yeah.
Which is God's gift to 2 Republican parents, not
Very
one but
good.
2.
And how do they feel about that? Not to turn around the interview on anybody.
They do have
here.
to make a choice
Yeah.
on that one for sure. But it's very interesting because we look at Alexander the Great.
Yeah.
We look at Pope Xanthias IX. We look at virtually every complicated thinker. You can see I'm selling this here to you, but from the Oscar Wildes to the great Gore Vidal, who I was lucky enough to interview during some of his last breaths, curmudgeon as he was at the end.
Yeah, Lindsey Graham and Mitch O'Connell.
That's right. Yes, exactly.
I mean, call it like I see it.
Well, I'll tell you, and this probably, I shouldn't probably reveal this, but I was in Munich a year ago, and the previous pope, not Francis, who seems to be a pretty stand-up guy, the one who preceded him, whose name we shall not say, lived and was from Munich. So he kept his papal digs in Munich. And he held some voluped dinner parties.
Very nice.
Including had his own cabin in an underground gentleman's club under a hotel called Die Deutsche Eiche.
Okay.
And was there recalled to the Vatican because, well, it got a little loud.
I see.
But it's interesting, in the seats of power throughout all of human history, people who are able to grab such power and understand the universal truths of how humanity works have to be able to reach into both sides of who they are. It's just kind of an interesting coincidence. So, whatever that means, I just kind of like to celebrate the fact that it's not a weird aberration in the corner, that it's as mainstream as it could possibly be. And until the Senate of Rome in about 680 AD, it was everywhere. It was ubiquitous. The most brilliant ancient Greek philosophers, from Plato's dialogues, unreadable, this thick, but by God, does he go on at length about how to have a dalliance with one of your friends.
Right.
You know, Aristotle, all of these guys. So it's only been in recent times, in restricting the ebb and flow of the human race, have we become somewhat unpopular. And by your efforts bringing us back into the fold, where we are part of the flow of life, you know, enhancing everybody's life.
Yep.
The best school teachers, some of the finest authors, inventors who gave us the computer.
Yeah, politicians.
Politicians.
I mean, I think one of the most interesting things you said is that you have Republican parents, just like I did.
Yes.
And you know what? They had to make a choice.
Yeah.
Are we going to love our gay kid, or are we not going to love our gay kid?
Right.
And you know what? They decided to love me, and they're no longer with us. There was nothing I could do to get them to vote Democrat, but they were absolutely not against this anti-gay stuff. And that's where we really need to just dig in, and make sure that our Republican friends and our Republican family members know that we shouldn't be pushed back in the closet anymore, that we should be celebrated, that we should be able to live our lives openly and happily. We should be able to be celebrated authors and directors and politicians, and that should no longer be the thing that defines us.
I am so glad you came on today, and I'm
Thank
so
you.
glad that you have given birth to this movement.
Thank you.
I'm sure when you did it, you weren't sure, gee, is it going to work? I mean, and it exploded.
It
and
did.
Every single person knows what it is.
It's a really I'm honored by that, and don't want to get weepy on the air, so let's move on quickly.
All right, let's get your website. How do we follow you?
I mean, the best way to follow me continuously is resistmarch.org. We continue to capture people's information so that we can keep them up to date. There's impeachment marches and there's immigration marches, and we want to continue to activate people. We want to get people involved in indivisible chapters in their areas. And just here in California, there's many districts that voted for Hillary Clinton that have Republican congressmen,
Right.
and we can help sort of turn the tide of the Congress if we work hard. And it's not because I have anything against Republicans in particular. I just have everything against people that want to push me back into the closet.
There you go. I mean, I was raised as one. I'm independent because I'm a journalist. So full disclosure, I support no party except no party. But everyone who makes the right choice and does the right thing is my kind of person.
That's right.
And,
mine too.
And you know, I tend to think that most people are good. Most people are really good. Most people want clean water. Most people want good schools.
Yep.
Most people want a little snuggle. They just do.
They want a hug.
They want a hug.
Yeah. You're totally right.
Yeah. Well, thank you for coming on. Brian Pendleton, as you know, is a wonderful, not only entrepreneur, philanthropist, and a guy who has rebirthed a movement that's been so critical and has kind of suffered constipations in the last number of years, and now it's free-flowing in exactly the right way, where human rights, all the humans, by the way, not just the gay humans,
right,
but all the humans are recognized, and that's where I really laud you, my friend, because that's the big stuff.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for coming on.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Friend.